Very good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ipora Nyambura. I work as a journalist at DW. DW is Germany's international broadcaster in Bonn, Germany. Originally, I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm sure most of you know or have heard of Nairobi, Kenya. That's where I come from, and of course, it's a pleasure to be here in Accra, Ghana for the first time and to talk about what I love most about young people.
A round of applause for Zipporah. My name is Kojo Yankson. I'm an anchor here on Joy News, and I'm very excited to welcome you all to this historic event under the auspices of Deutsche Welle and Joy News. We are live, by the way, on Joy News and Joy Prime, so wave and say hello to your mom. We are here for the next couple of hours to do something very historic. We're here to start a conversation that hopefully will right a wrong, will correct an imbalance, and start us on the way to making a silent majority more vocal and more heard in our continent. 77% of Africa is under 35 years old. But somehow, the leadership, the resources, all fall in the hands of the 23% that are above 35. Today and together, we hope to start the conversation that sets to correct our representation as young people in leadership across the continent.
So feel free to join in the debate. For those listening also on our Facebook page, DW Africa, you can leave your comments there. And of course, I'd like to acknowledge the dignitaries and the VIPs who are also here with us. First of all, we have our Deutsche Welle General Director, or the Director General, who is here, Director General Peter Limburg.
A round of applause.
And also here with us is the Head of Africa Department, Klaus Stecker. And we have many more. We also have Natasha Schwenke, who is the Head of DW Academy.
Also with us and representing the management of Multimedia Group Limited. Let's put our hands together for the Managing Director of Multi TV, Mr. Santok Singh. We have people from all walks of life joining this all-important conversation. Let's put our hands together for the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Mr. Suleiman Abrahman. He's a member of parliament. He has special skill and knowledge in youth since he used to work at the Youth Employment Agency. Let's put our hands together for Ras Mubarak. We'll introduce you to many more dignitaries as the evening goes on. But right now, I think we're able to get things rolling, and it's my honor to welcome up to the stage, to welcome us in a proper Ghanaian way. He doesn't want you to guess his age, whether he's 77 or 23, but he is Santok Singh.
Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. Director General of Deutsche Welle, Mr. Peter Limburg. Deutsche Welle Head of Distribution for Africa, Ms. Sevan Saur Ibrahim. Klaus, the Head of Africa Desk. Natasha, Head of Academy, DW Academy. Management team from Deutsche Welle, members of Parliament, youth leaders present today, members of the panel of discussion, my colleagues from the Multimedia Group, invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all of you to this important forum to give the youth a voice. The youth of Ghana is dynamic and creative, and when given opportunity, will soar and do exploits. This is my belief. The conversation that we are having today is very relevant to our development and future. as you have heard from Kojo, that the 77% of the population in Africa is below the age of 35. I consider myself in that group because though my age may be more, but my heart is still below 35. And the leadership of this country or continent is in the hand of the 23%, which is above. So we need to create a balance. So this is very crucial time for us to chart creative way of incorporating the 77% in policy making, governance, and also most importantly, business. As we in multimedia group, is the same for us because most of or majority of our audience is below the age of 35. So whenever we are developing strategy or planning any content, so what we do is we engage our internal team, which is also a young team, as well as external audience, which is also young. So by this engagement, we create strategies that we develop for our portfolios. However, on our national front, Ghana has a national youth policy formulated in 2010 to grow and empower youth, impacting positively on national development. The policy covers 19 areas, including education and skill training, youth in modern agriculture, gender mainstreaming, youth in conflicts prevention, and also peace building. But are these just policies on paper, or there are genuine effort being made to transform and build the nation with the input from the youth? For the government authority that is responsible for ensuring the empowerment of the Ghana youth, we hope to see more inclusion of the youth in decision-making. After all, the youth is the future and must participate in the decision that is going to affect their future. It is remarkable to note also that currently we have some very young people in Parliament representing their constituency. We hope to see more representation of the youth in decision-making across all fields of national development. We are also looking and hoping that both of development and implementation of policy are made with inclusion of youth. On another note, let me also speak about our partnership of multimedia group with Deutsche Welle. Partnership between the multimedia group and Deutsche Welle has been long-standing and in various endeavors. We have had trainings from DW Academy, which is an international center for media development, media consulting, and journalism training. We have also had collaboration in programming, especially in news, and we are planning to expand this to build further and stronger partnership between the two. We have also been in collaboration with Deutsche Welle in organizing events since 2016, when we started our Hero Mobile project, where we acknowledging the unsung heroes making impact in youth in community. In 2017, we organized an event with the theme Migration Dilemma. And this year, again, an initiative by Deutsche Welle, the 77% project. Next year will be our 10 years anniversary in collaboration, so we are hoping that we will be making more collaboration, more content collaboration to celebrate this 10 years anniversary. So ladies and gentlemen, let's have a fruitful conversation and listen to the voice of the youth. They must be heard. Thank you.
A better hand of applause for Santo Singh. And now we will move on to the next step because we have got a lot lined up for you today. I'm now delighted to welcome the head of Africa Department at Deutsche Welle, Klaus Stecker. And before we get there, of course, first we'll hear from the Director General of DW, Peter Limburg. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we can, I'm a bit taller than probably the average here. Well, I can do it this way, so, well, or you can, yeah, well, we do it this way. So, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm really happy and glad to be here, and it's a pleasure to see you all, and it's also a pleasure to work together with you, dear colleague. And it is a great partnership we have with multimedia. And when I entered the territory of Ghana yesterday, I came from Lomé with my delegation by car, and we stopped at the border, obviously. And in the border offices where we had to show our passports, what did the people in there watch? You can guess. It was Joy News. So I know this was a good sign for our partnership, and I know this is great that we can have such an important partner here. And yes, we have the 10th anniversary coming up, and I'm quite sure that we will try to enlarge our partnership with the multimedia group, and I think there are a lot of chances. And I'm very proud that now we have this 77% which we can offer to our users and listeners in Africa, but especially here in Ghana. And I think Joy is a great partner for us and Multimedia Group. And yes, Mr. Sin, you already mentioned it, that the 77% are the future of Africa. And yes, it is like this. And these 77%, it's up to them to change the continent, to change the societies here, and to make it, hopefully, in most of the cases, a better place. And sometimes they have to change it, even if the 23% doesn't like it. And you, from the 77%, are the ones who have to work on getting rid of corruption. You have to work for a better environment. And on the other hand, you already know that you have so many possibilities by your creativity and by your absolutely dedicated spirit to change your countries and your continent. So I'm looking forward to see this and to see the good ideas coming up. And when we travel through Africa, we see so many great examples of how you can change the continent to a better life. African startups, African initiatives, African ideas. And so we are very happy to be together with you on this journey with 77% and to bring in maybe some good ideas and also to learn from you and your ideas. And I think what 77% is about is to build a platform where African youth can exchange and learn from each other. It's not so much the case that somebody should learn from us, Germans or Europe. I think you can have a lot of chances to learn from each other, to see best practice, and also to discuss your own problems, your own chances, your own challenges. So I'm really proud that we hopefully find a good platform here to help you to get in a better exchange together. And I'm very proud to be in Ghana. It's a great country. It's something which is now much more in focus, or it's a country which is much more in focus of the international community of Germany. Germany is trying a lot to help you in the way and the path to maybe a better economy, better development. But you've done a lot. I mean, it's incredible what Ghana has achieved. But I think you know for yourself that there are still some things to even do better. And I'm not the one to give you any advices, but for me, myself, when I talk about media, it's very important that you have access to information. And I think it's really crucial when you are journalists and when you work here in this country for the benefit of your society that you can have access to information. And so I hope that in the future this will be regulated in a sense of free press and in a sense of access to information. And the other thing which is vital is the security of journalists. And I hope that the situation gets better and better, because we hear a lot of stories that journalists are being attacked during they're doing their job and their work by authorities and beaten up. And I think this is not tolerable. And I hope that this is something where you all can work together, that this changes, because it's journalists are not doing their job only for fun. They're doing it for the sake of the society. And so it's a vital thing that they can do their job properly. And they have also the duty to do the job properly, to listen to all the voices and not be biased. But there's no reason at all to beat journalists up. So I'm really happy to be here in this country. As I said, Germany is trying to help where it can. I think the compact with Africa is something which will benefit for all of us, because we all have an interest that Africa can prosper. And the good thing is that it said it's with Africa and not for. I'm quite sure that we should do something together. And as we are here at Deutsche Welle, for us it's collaboration, co-production, which is important. And so I hope that we find a lot of chances to do this together in the future. So thank you very much. Now I have to repair the microphone. And I wish us all a great evening and a good show. Thank you very much.
A hand of applause for our Director General, Peter Limburg. Much better, the African way. Thank you. So, as we heard now, we are just about to set the ball rolling, because we have great discussions coming up and great panelists. But before that, I want to welcome, finally, I was in a rush, but now it's time to welcome the head of Africa Department, Klaus Stecker. Stecker served for long as a correspondent in Southern Africa, and he has long relations with Africa. And he comes along with one of our very own from DW and one of your very own from Ghana, Eddie Micah Jr. Welcome. A better hand of applause. Thank you.
Are you still there? Yeah? Ghana Etezeng. Ah, okay, there's still some room for...
Can we do better for him, please? Ghana Etezeng. Yeah, much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, now you see why we need you, you know? So you might wonder, you know, why an old man like me is telling you something about 77% the youth, you know? So, by the way, Eddie, how old are you? Slipping slightly out of the target group now?
What I can say is I'm still part of the 77%, but the clock is ticking. But I'll still do my best.
Let's stop it. Let's stop it. So I consider you still very young and energetic. So probably you should, if you still wonder about all the number games, so we should probably show you a trailer. That's more entertaining, I think. Probably. Do we have the film up? Here we are.
The under 35s.
We are the 77%.
They want to shape the continent's future. Be part of it and join African youngsters as they share their stories, their dreams, and their challenges. The 77%, DW's platform for Africa's majority.
You know, naturally, you don't have much to add when the boss has spoken, so we just want to put you through the idea a little bit. So when we started the 77%, it didn't come out of the blue. So, for instance, we were watching two elections, and you might have them very present in your mind, the one in Gambia and the one in Ghana. serious stuff. And people, they were bombarding us with comments from both sides. People started exchanging about what is democracy like, what does it mean, a regime change or a peaceful handover of power. And suddenly we found out, okay, yes, it's obviously a big thing in Pan-Africa-wide. So we had comments from Tanzania, from Kenya, from Uganda, and we had comments from here, very lively discussion. And we felt like, okay, why not giving this debate a platform? That's actually how it started. And then we had all these old projects or longer running projects. The one we have is Joynews, Africa on the Move. And so we were always focused on the role models, on constructive journalism. So to show the other side of Africa, So sometimes it tends to be a bit dominated by negative news. That's how it started. And of course, dialogue in the digital world is not about TV only. So we put all the efforts on all the platforms we are having. You see them, Facebook, WhatsApp. We even started Instagram now. Of course, we include the TV, and I think there's more to come very soon. So with a regional magazine. And yes, and it's always about dialogue. Yeah. Eddie, please, tell me that this is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely always about dialogue. Hello, okay, I'm back. It's always about dialogue, and that's the main motive for setting up the 77%, to create this platform where the youth can actually interact with themselves, most importantly, share ideas and all of that. And it's in 6 different languages, as you can see. I was trying to always look at the symbols and decide exactly which language that is. I will fail if I try that now, but the 6 different languages include Portuguese, the French, the English, the Amharic, Hausa, and these are widely spoken languages on the African continent, because we want to, of course, reach as many young idea. And if we check the next slide, there's been different programs we've been trying to do. These are some lovely colleagues of mine. They are all there. Some maybe not 77% material, but yeah, they still are young at heart.
Perhaps we have the chance to check the sound system here. So we have a little audio example here.
That gives you the chance to join the debate shaping Africa.
Karibu katika vijana mchaka mchaka. Mimi ni Bruce Amani.
አፍሪካ ውስጥ በአብዛኛው የሴቶች ሚና ልጅ ማሳደግና የቤት ውስጥ
Deutsche Welle dandalin matasa.
Correspondendo a 77% da sua população, segundo o banco.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous, c'est Yann Durand au micro pour le magazine de la Génération Montante.
All we had time for on this week's edition of the 77%.
Gorgeous, and we even have changed our sound design in the meantime, so we sound much fresher in the meantime.
Yeah, definitely. So these are basically some of the examples of how we reach out to our different audiences. Pay no attention to the guy standing with the girl there. That's nothing to do with what we're talking about, but the show that they are in there is something called What Else? And Klaus mentioned a bit of that because we're talking about not just the challenges per se or the negative things, because that's what we normally hear when we watch television or basically interact with any media platform. It's all about the corruption, the fighting here and there. But there's so much more on the African continent, Ghana and beyond, of course, that is not being talked about. So that gave birth to the show called What Else? Basically asking is happening on the African continent. And there are a lot of other programs like that, Klaus, a lot of programs like that that are basically letting the youth talk about what makes them proud to be Africans, what makes them want to share what they have with the rest of the world, and that's very important also.
And the last point of it, which is probably not so common for Germans, so we even try to be funny. So we have a satirical producer in Zimbabwe, and they do really funny stuff, I find. So we leave it to them to be more funny than us, the Germans.
Yeah, maybe it takes a bit more to make a German laugh, but I'm learning that, and I'm doing my best. Also, so it's been years, and we have over 340,000 followers and counting, of course. We're hoping that by the end of today, everyone here will be following the DW Africa Facebook page, yes, and that will definitely be increasing the numbers. We can all check what the goal is, and it's very important that we reach this goal, and Klaus and all of us and the rest of the team are doing all we can to make that possible. Again, ignore the guy over there.
So in the moment, it's still wishful. In a few couple of no, not months, even only weeks. So we will start by the start of the new year. We will be present with a YouTube channel, I promise.
Yeah. So I guess this is where we'll be wrapping this up. The YouTube channel, it's work in progress, right? Definitely. And yeah, when it's up and running, you all will be a part of it, and it will be that platform. Yeah, that's it, Klaus.
Anything to add? No.
There will be so much to say, but we're going to leave that to the young entrepreneurs.
Aye, yezinchie, yezinchie fiakotampano, Reverend Mono. Sikampano in the Ghana. One say. Okasache Oduma Kumachere Masi. One bra, one bosom. Some tramp on Kwame. Tramp on Yami Frititi. I hear for him. Oduma Kuma. Eja Frititi. Or your cron. Oduma Kumachere Ma.
Majido.
Esucha akon chesu. Openyini no wana. Openyini.
Oduma kuma bazi, bazi. Esucha akon chesu. Openyini wana. Wobo kon no kotosu. Esu ne fretete.
Oduma Kumachere Ma.
Majido.
Oduma kuma bazi bazi. Efina owodo na wozi. Yede dobia.
Impenyini se. Impenyini huma na wode kwasa. Na nye mmofra dibia. Nyansa ruku hen chen or say hen. Origi hen nkwa na accident.
Oduma Kumachere Ma.
Majido.
Abodi nyansa pedi nsesa ntotodo aba. Onu na yenyim. Aye kolo dadaw.
Nchirimanyi. Yini kuntu a mofron kutu a utitredo. Uma kronkron no. Jeremiah 3:6. Nichichem besia. Kankan. Tete Wobika, Tete Wobitre, Sankapa, Ma Enyo, 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 Sankapa, Ma Enyo.
Oh, keep the applause going. That was fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about who we have just experienced. Please, gentlemen, before you leave, on the modern drums, let's give him another round of applause. He's a composer, he's a singer, he's a drummer, and his name is Francis Osei. Francis, of course, represents our 77%. Put our hands together once more. He is a master traditional drummer, the great divine Odumankuma Ochrema Kwame Napra. Wow, and these two gentlemen, by the way, the 23% trained the 77%. All right? Communicating, dialoguing with each other. Second largest Akan tribe here in Ghana. It happens to be the language of my tribe. They come from my city, which is Cape Coast. So really, I should have understood them a bit better, right? They were going through the Lord's Prayer, some other verses from the Bible. Round of applause one more time for them. Now, just before we introduce our panelists and get into our conversation, there's somebody who I want us to invite up front, just so that we can see him, because sightings of this man are very rare. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Executive Officer of Multimedia Group Limited, Kwesi Chum. Let's invite Mr. Chum up to the front. There he is. There you go. Remember this moment. It probably won't happen again in your lifetime. So much for being here, Kwesi. All right, let's get to business. Zipporah, why don't we start by introducing our panelists for today's all-important conversation. 77% speaks 23%.
Exactly. That's the most important thing we've all been waiting for. Because you may ask, why the 5 year? The 5 year represents the young people of Africa today. Young, energetic, and those who are willing to take risks in every venture they take part in. So without further ado, we will learn a lot from them. So in case you are planning to leave that door, please do not leave. And I'll go right away and introduce the first one here. My friend as well, Ivy Were. Ivy Were is the founder of Cafe Magnifico. And that's his logo. Let's first give a round of applause. Ivy Were started as a fashion designer, and she took the risk and decided to venture into the world of coffee, even though she didn't know much about it, but she was willing to learn. And today we are going to hear how you can take risks in something you do not know and venture as a young person. So welcome, Ivy.
A round of applause. Thank you for joining us, Ivy. Second, let me introduce you to a man who was named among the Forbes Africa 30 under 30 for 2016. Yeah, he's a big man. He runs Orios Group Ghana. It's a venture capital firm specializing in startups. This firm seeks to invest in healthcare, information technology, agriculture, utilities, education services, and wherever else money chases talent. Let's put our hands together. CEO John Ama.
Next, I am going to introduce someone who is very important, just like everyone here, and her name is Dorinda Mawenya. Dorinda Mawenya here is the founder of We Naturals. She makes products for African hair, so you know what that means. If you're an African woman listening to us right there, you know you've been looking for products and you cannot find them. So she represents the African youth today who can see a chance and an opportunity, and the fact that you can do something where no one has ventured in. That is Dorinda Mawenya. We will be hearing from her, so get your questions ready, young people.
Next, let me introduce you to a man who, on his day job, is an economic consultant. He has a keen interest for Africa. He has experience in economic, financial, public policy analysis, and has consulted for some of the largest international NGOs like the World Bank and so forth. And he even makes time for a little hobby of anchoring the news in the evenings on GH1. A round of applause for Patrick Stevenson.
Finally, we now get to know one other person. He is called Deridin Atsi. I hope I got the Ghanaian name right, coming from Kenya. You will correct me. And Deridin is in software business. So you know what that means. The fact that he has to compete in a market where not many Africans are trusted to do, that is software, and having to fight competition from China and from everywhere else. But he is doing great, and we will have a chance to hear from him as well. So do prepare the questions. Thank you very much.
Right, let's get started. First, Zipporah will explain to us the simple rules of what we're about to engage in.
Yeah, and they're very simple. First, we will start from hearing from our panelists here. We will have, after that, we come to you, the audience, the young people, 77%. You will have a chance to ask your question. It's very important that you pay attention because I'm sure there is a lot you're going to learn today. Because I know you want to start a business, you do not know how to go about it, but they have done it, and they're going to tell you how they did it. So we are going to start right here. Thank you very much.
Right, let's get started. And we've broken down the conversation into 4 broad areas. We'll talk a little bit about unemployment, about entrepreneurship, about the political landscape, all of it with 77 talking to 23. And then we will round up by asking how we can create social thinkers. So let's start with the all-important unemployment. Now here in Ghana, there aren't many sources of accurate data when it comes to unemployment figures. However, across Africa, the United Nations tells us that 60% of the unemployed are young men and women. So I want to start from the middle, if I may. Deridin, you are an employer in your own right. Do the 77 play a sufficient role in creating the jobs that are needed to close the unemployment gap across the continent? And I invite you all to pick up your microphones so that you can chip into this conversation whenever you have a thought. But Deridin, let's start with you.
Thank you very much, Kojo. Yes, the 77 play a very critical role in addressing the issues of unemployment in our part of the world. One of the key things that you recognize is that the 77 form the population with the right energy. You know, that is where the strength, the skills are. And that is the kind of skills and energy that we need to move production,
to drive productivity, right? So the 77 are a very crucial component of addressing unemployment issues in our part of the world. The key question is, how do we fit all the pieces together? How do we get the 77 empowered, enabled, positioned in a way that can generate employment, either by creating their own jobs or coming up with ideas that will enable people create jobs? And these are questions that needs to be answered. And one of the key things that I see is we need to, apart from creating an enabling environment, we also need to drive enabling narratives. Narratives that make people know that they are capable, that make people know that that make people able to critically assess the environment, critically think, and then come up with solutions. So for me, I believe that the 77 play a very critical role in the employment or unemployment narrative.
And Ivy, I will come right to you, because when you talk about 77%, of course, you are among this number. What do you think is the role of young people in creating jobs? You did it. How?
It's hello. It's a lot of hard work and determination. And I will not sit here and say it was easy, because all of us know that in order to create a business, you need capital, which is an essential part. So, and in Africa, in Ghana, we don't have rich families that leave behind some inheritance for anybody. So actually, you have to be persistent in what you want to do and talk to the right people. And also, when you're in school, you always feel that you have much time, so you don't know that you have to actually save. But I think the young folks here, if they are still in uni, I think they have to start learning the habit of putting some coins down somewhere, because it will come in handy when you're out of school. Because to be honest, there's an unemployment problem in the system right now. And we, the 77, have to actually think deep within our mind and create our own jobs and pathways, because we can do it. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. I see a lot of you agree with that. But permit me to challenge it a little bit, if I may. How easy is it for a young person with no options, barely making it through school, because free has not yet got to the tertiary level yet?
No.
How easy is it for such a person, a young person in that position, to at the same time be thinking, I'm not going to get a job when I leave, so I'd better raise my own capital?
It's not about you not getting a job when you leave. I did internship throughout my whole 4 years in uni. And every time I did an internship, I was paid a salary. And I've realized one thing. Of late, the youth are spending frivolously on so many things that actually don't matter. I'm not saying that I'm a saint, but I kind of have, like he said earlier, there is an impact that the parents, their upbringing also has an impact on us. Because if you don't train your kid that well to be able to have essentials spending, then the money is thrown everywhere. That's another problem that we actually have to deal with first. Because people have great ideas. People know what to do in order to actually make their own money and not be an employee. But the problem is the capital. But when you sit down and be truthful to yourself, you'd realize that you don't need so much of a $1 million to start a business. Everybody thinks it's like you have to have a $1 million or $10,000 to start a business. I started a business with just $1,000. Some people started a business with just $100. Some people have stories like that. I had to buy my machines from China, so because of that, I was started already on clothing. So I had my savings. Machines to import into the country doesn't come cheap. But if you speaking to the right people, they have a credit line. They have a way in order for you to do your payment. And before you realize, you have a whole factory set up, and you didn't have a $10,000 sitting somewhere in an account for you to start a business. That's one thing the youth have to actually acknowledge. It's not a pool of money sitting anywhere for anyone to start a business. It's the determination and it's the goal that you have that would enable you save that pennies that you have to get one thing after the other after the other.
This is fascinating stuff. Now, I wonder if our entire panel agrees with this or whether we have some minority reports in here. Do we all think that everybody is capable of creating their own job and then hopefully employing others straight out of college? Patrick seems to have a thought on that.
Well, the question then becomes, if we are all entrepreneurs, who are we selling to, right? So the case of, was it Doreen? The case of Ivy, there may be a case of some young people, which is that, you spot an opportunity somewhere, you're able to open cracks or, as she says, know who to speak to. But you're talking about an entire ecosystem that needs some sustainable thinking. Everybody can't be, who do I know? I mean, you don't build an institutional framework for creating sustainable jobs based on who I know and who I'm speaking to. The system needs to be conscious of the fact that you have young people who are coming out, and these young people need opportunities. Again, I'm not picking on Ivy, but you started with $1,000. Somebody might have started with $100. If I convert $1,000 to my Ghana cedi as I speak today, you're talking something that is near 5,000 Ghana cedis thereabout. I'm not sure that's chicken change.
That's for Cafe Magnifico, not for clothing. You remember, my story is I started somewhere and then I'm now doing coffee. So for Cafe Magnifico, I need machines to process the coffee.
Fantastic.
And my machines are bought abroad, which means I have to change cedis into dollars. And from my savings of a business that I registered when I was in school in 2008, I hadn't finished university when I registered my company.
Fantastic.
So I saved from that trading of the clothing.
Do you know what? Let's just pause and give her a round of applause for that. But as we clap, the question is that an outlier, or can all of us do that?
Which is what I'm trying to get to, that you may have isolated cases of that nature. And clearly what Ivy suggests, I mean, there are principles in there that we can all learn, right? Which is that you need to have a certain mindset that when I get back into the economy is not creating sustainable jobs for anybody else. If you're a young person in school today and you don't understand the thinking of the Ghanaian economy or the African economy, there's a problem. So the unemployment conversation, in my view, we have to look at it from two perspectives. What currently are the growth poles of the African economy? What do those growth poles look like in the future? So that if you're in school today and you're thinking about the existing jobs, I'm afraid you're going to have problems, because by the time you're out in 4 years, the harsh reality is that where opportunities will exist may not necessarily be today. Today we are having conversations around technology and how technology is disrupting, existing value chains for production. Are these the skill sets you're learning? So that your case may not necessarily have to be Ivy who has to try to do some saving somewhere, but you understand that some opportunities can be unlocked in certain areas of the economy. The education system is not providing that for you, I'm afraid. There's a harsh reality that you're going to be confronted with.
Important point. Now, I want to bring Dorinda into the conversation at this point. You're an entrepreneur.
Yes, I am.
So it's funny, we were supposed to start with unemployment and go to entrepreneurship. Already the debate is hot on entrepreneurship. I want to bring it back to unemployment for a moment. Is the youth playing the best role they can in creating jobs for themselves and others?
Thank you, Kojo. I would have to say that no, we are not. We can do way better, especially in this age that we are in. We have technology on our side. So there's so much we can do that we are not taking advantage of. I'm not trying to take the conversation back, but I need to pick an idea from what they've both talked about. She is talking about starting with her own money. He's saying, he's not disagreeing, but he's saying realistically, you need the system to be able to support you. My story is that whilst in the university, yes, I was doing the internship and all that. I was selling water in bags. I was saving money. I sold banku and tilapia. I did a whole lot of things. And I was saving a little bit of money here and there. You might not be able to get the 5,000 Ghana cedi to start a business like she did, but when you do something, you are starting something. Whether you succeed or, I'm really not scared of failure. I don't know. I feel like you learn from it. But whether you succeed or not, one thing is going to happen. You're going to learn. And if you have to learn with your own money. If you are fortunate enough to succeed, then you have something to show to the ecosystem people that, okay, I had 200 Ghana cedis and I did this, I'm here, now give me something, because you have seen that I can do it. So I think we have a lot more to do. We can do it. I believe we can really do a lot. So we should all come together and then do what we have to do.
Yeah, so Mawenya raised a very important point there. And I think we have to talk to someone who started his business when he was only 16, or is it 19? And that is John Amma. Perhaps he can tell us, did he have money? And how did he even start at that age? Amma.
Bro, thank you for the opportunity. Good evening to all of you. Oh, good evening to all of you. Hey, you sound so down. This is interesting. We're all youth as we speak. Let me try and put a context in place before I establish that point as whether or not I started at 16 or 17. And kudos to the fellow panelists for that engaging start of the program. As we speak right now, we've not built, Ghana has not built enough generational businesses to say that these companies, these businesses can give back the way we see in countries like the US, in Europe, etc. And so to compare our ecosystem to that ecosystem will fail because they won't give us the support we need to be able to grow our businesses, to be able to grow the ideas that we have, and so on and so forth, right? Going forward, you'd also realize that in Africa, we tend to blame our fathers and our leaders a lot for what they've done. Look, we cannot continue to blame those people from the past for the mistakes they made. This time, it's our time. It's the time of the future, it's the time of the youth, and we need to look at it from different angles. When you look at this, you ask yourself whether or not the ecosystem will be right at some point. It will never be right. While governments struggle to put in place and to set our macroeconomic fundamentals right, they never seem to achieve that. Since time immemorial, we've had long-term development plans, we have medium-term development plans, and the politicians will tell you. They'll tell you we've had, every year there's GPRS1, GPRS2, Ghana Growth Share Development Agenda as well, which always has a youth component in it. But how many of us have benefited from any of these things? It never exists. As we speak right now, 12 million young people are unemployed. 65 million young people are employed but live in poverty. What are we doing about that? So youth can be enablers and can be actors, but we need to harness that. Let me tell you how we can harness it. We can only harness our economic potential from youth if we realize that the currency that we have is our trust. If I didn't have trust, I want to be very, very practical with you. If you can't be trusted as youth, you'll never have an opportunity. If I wasn't trusted, Derry Dean, forgive me for saying, wouldn't have given us money to work with and pay him back. If we're not trusted, Stephen, Patrick, will not trust us. We're giving conference center for more than 3 years, and that speaks to your 16th question. When I was 17, 18, and 19, I was on radio because I needed to find my purpose. I feel like we're not having a conversation about finding purpose. Many more young people are going around asking themselves, what can I be? What is the future like? What jobs should I look forward to? And that answer lies in finding purpose. Who am I? What is that? Let the boundaries that you face today be that which lifts you up, be that which gets you thinking, and realize that passion may just be a feeling, but passion drives skill. Skill drives value, and value is what can change the economy. Value is what can change the narrative around whether Africa is poor, whether we have resources we're not exploiting, or we're not using to our advantage. The key lies in many of the people, the 77% who are here seated and want to do. Watch something. Now, Mawena is the same thing. I've had business dealings with Mawena when we did a pitch for her. Unfortunately, the time is of the essence for me, so not time of the essence, but we've not had time to engage. Mawena, I'm coming back to you. Hear me if you're here. The future is about Africa. Africa is no longer an importer of technology. We're an exporter of technology. That's why Derry Dean has a business. So when you're looking for that opportunity, first look within you. Ask yourself, who am I? What can I contribute to the economy? And who do I need to talk to? The power of networks. Who are you talking to? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you learning from? Unfortunately, today, you cannot look to African leaders and our business people and determine whether or not their wealth is true. So be careful who you look forward to. And remember that the currency we have today is learning from our mistakes. Make mistakes, learn fast, get ready for the future.
Wow. John Amma for president, anyone? Clearly, John makes important points here. That, yes, you could wait around for the ecosystem to favor you, or you could create your own. So interesting things to think about there. And as we move on from the issue of unemployment into entrepreneurship, I'm curious, and I'm happy to come back to the very beginning where we started, because Derry Dean, you employ a number of people. Now, tell me honestly, when you have a vacancy, and two people come up to you, one, a young 16, 17-year-old firebrand with no experience but a million ideas like John, and another who's about 36, 37 and has done the work and can start on day one and start giving you value. Tell me, as a businessman, will you honestly go for the untested simply because they belong to 77%?
Right, so as a businessman, there are different things I look at, right? And for me, I've worked with very young people. The average age has always been around 24. And what I look at is what you've done before. It doesn't have to be necessarily in a particular field or a specific career experience. It could be your own self-initiative. It could be a voluntary thing that you did. It could be you teaching somebody in your neighborhood in your spare time. I look at attitude. Because sometimes if you have too many smart people in the room, you can't move forward. So you look at people who execute a job, right? So I'm looking at the work has to be done. Where can I get productive value? I'm a businessman. I don't look at faces. I don't look at age. I don't look at... I look at CV, but CV is a story that you are telling, but we need to engage. So yes, I work with young people, and my approach has always been skilling the young. And those who know me know that I really work with people straight out of school. So we pick you out of school, and then we give you all the training. But the key thing is this. When I know that I will need you at work, I will look for you in your second year and engage you in your second year. Give you tasks, give you internships, give you even, work study internships, so that by the time that you are done, you are already abreast with what happens where I work. You're already abreast with the market. And then you can now come and work with me. So I don't really face the challenge of age gap and experience because we are in the technology age, and the smartest guys mostly are very young. And technology is always evolving so fast. And the young guys, that is the 77%, they have the solutions. The key thing is how to shape them in solving problems. So one of the things that we young people will need is problem-solving skills. The ability to recognize problems, convert those problems into opportunities, and figure out how to come up with solutions to solve those problems. I know that we spoke a lot over here, and we spoke about systems that's not really working out. Yes, that is true. But sometimes I feel that sometimes breeds a certain sense of entitlement. Nobody's entitled to offer you a job. We need to start, that's why I speak about enabling narratives. We need to be able to know that, yes, the problem exists, but we need to be able to have a conversation around it that will let us come out with positive outcomes and action lines, so that would drive us into coming out with solutions to solve the very problems that we see. What happens is that when there's a problem, we like to talk about it, and we spend so much time trying to uncover more negatives in the problem than figuring out, okay, so what is the solution? And I believe that that's the power that we young people have. The power to discuss ideas and to discuss solutions in spite of the challenges. Because we need to solve the problems to create a world that we'll grow up to be in. And that's how I see it.
That's great.
Yeah, I think I will just, maybe you can actually wrap up, because what you said is very important. Like, we don't discuss problems, or rather, the solutions as well. So what can you tell the young people who want to venture and become like you today?
Right. So one of the key things for us as young people is learning how to, like I said before, solve problems, right? Whatever challenges that you have in the community. I know that now we have social media, and social media gives us opportunity to show how eloquent we are in talking about problems, right? We need to now start figuring out how to utilize these same social media platforms to engage other people and collaborate to solve problems. Young people who want to solve problems have to learn how to work with other people. And he spoke about trust. We need to learn how to build a system, a value system, and a culture that establishes in itself trust. And you see all entrepreneurs here, you realize that a lot of them started when they were really, really young. It's a habit. It's something that it's not an event. It's a journey. And that journey, you recognize it mostly when you are young. So all of us here want to be entrepreneurs. It's the little things that you are doing out there. The toffee that she was selling, the water that she was selling in school, all the things that you are doing is entrepreneurship. It's not just an office space, right? So out there, whatever you find as a problem, you can always figure out a dimension and how to solve it, right?
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Deridine does it there. Now, I want the conversation to evolve into other areas. I've heard two important things here that I want to pick up on to move to the next stage of the conversation. But first, let me acknowledge somebody who is here with us in the audience. In the last election here in Ghana, one constituency elected the youngest ever member of parliament in our nation's history. And she's here tonight, the Honorable Francisca Otting. Extremely young, 25 years old. 25 years old, still in university when she won the seat. And today she represents several thousands of people in her constituency. But again, this conversation is necessary because the Franciscas of this world are outliers. What is the norm? What can you and I do in our own little way? So I picked two important things. I want us to use that to move the conversation forward. First, I heard Ivy say that in order to start a business, you need capital. Then I heard John say that if you're going to succeed as a young person, you must have trust. Somebody must trust you. Now, one of the criticisms that is leveled against the 77 by the 23 is that we're indisciplined. We're not trustworthy. You give us an opportunity, and chances are we're going to squander it. We've been raised by parents who tell us that we're entitled to everything. We can get whatever we want. And then you put us in a workplace, and we realize the world is not like that, and we give up. So let's start by looking at ourselves, the 77%. And if you don't mind, I'll start with you, Dorinda. How are we ourselves falling short and missing out on opportunities that we could have used to take more control of our destiny?
Thank you. I think one of the very unpopular opinions is that John mentioned it. We believe people owe us, like we are. I'm sorry, but no one owes you anything. Not the government, not your parents, not your school. Nobody. Listen, it's good when you have those things. But look around. There are people who are doing it who do not have it. They are in the same situation as you. So if you are relying on everybody else, I wasn't born in the right country, there are no systems to support me, I don't have, I didn't go to the best schools, whatever it is, and then you are using that. Trust me, you are using it to bring your own self down. You are using it to hold yourself back. If you have a fine, we thank God, it's going to help us to go. But if you don't, and you keep holding on to the fact that they didn't give me, I don't have, somebody owes you, you will never move. Start. We've heard of so many success stories, some sitting here, who are in the same situation you are in, and who are moving, who are going, and you choose to stay and complain and say, everybody owes you something by yourself. You owe yourself the biggest thing of all. You owe yourself the chance. See, the same opportunity that you have, others have it and they are moving. So we need to get going, and we need to put that notion out of our minds. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody does. I'm sorry, but no.
Thank you very much, Mawenya. You raised, and I took something here today, but I know young people have a problem today. The problem is they want to get rich quick. No one is that patient. Who wants to wait for 20 years until the business is successful? Like, you start a business, you want to get rich tomorrow, or you want to get lots of profits by into 1 year or 2 years, you dream of a big house. How can young people learn this patience? How do you even make it from the scratch and to have that patience as a young person?
When you're starting something and you have at the back of your mind that maybe a year or two, I'm going to make it and I'm going to be at the top there, the likelihood that you're going to succeed is very low, because in the real world, there are challenges, there are issues. If you start and you know that this is a process, and I intend to enjoy this process, and I'm going to go through it, and whatever happens, I'm going to get there, take your time. Thankfully, you have age on your side. Take your time and then go through it. Very few companies start and within a short time, they are making it. Very few. And even those few, when you really listen to them, you realize that a lot of work went into it. It isn't just what you're seeing. No, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of years of training or learning, maybe not pertaining to exactly what you're doing now, but a lot of work went into it. I use this analogy when I'm talking to my friends sometimes that when I'm reading a book, sometimes I just pause and then I think about the number of times the author might have been frustrated, wanted to just leave because challenges, you are not getting the ideas, the number of papers the person tore and they threw you away, so many things. So be patient and enjoy the process. It's not easy, but it's fun. It's fun, and you have to allow yourself to go through it. And then one day when you are there, here or higher, we all want to go higher, and then you look back, you really understand what the number of companies that are making it within a very short time, most of them don't even last, right? The get-rich-quick syndrome, most of them don't. So take your time, go through the process. It wouldn't be easy. Nobody here is saying that, but you need to take your time, go through it, and know that it's a process, it's a journey, and enjoy the journey. You learn on it, and you will succeed.
Right, now,
sorry.
Oh, yes, keep
I have
clapping.
something
I want to
to
mix
add
things
to-
up a little bit, just before we come back to the rest of our panelists. Because at this point, we want to point the finger at ourselves. We want to criticize ourselves. And we have Madam Francisca with us, so I want to take this opportunity to chat with her for a little bit. Please get up. Let's see you again. Let's turn around and look at our audience here. Now, Francisca, you've done something quite special. But now you are in the House of Parliament with 99% of them being above 35. Tell me about the experience. Tell me how in Parliament your youth is either an advantage or a disadvantage.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I would say Ghana Parliament, during the last election, that was 2016 election, we had a lot of voters voting in, a lot of youth. Recently, when we were sworn in, myself and then a couple of other MPs, we came together to form an association which has never been set up in Ghana Parliament before, which is the Young Parliamentarians Forum. And we have about 77 members of Parliament who are not more than 45. We increase our number to 45, looking at the nature of
Is it because there weren't enough under 35?
Well, not because there weren't enough under 35, but it's because we were actually following our sister country, which is Nigeria, and it was through that initiative that we decided to come to Ghana and then also establish a similar association. And in Nigeria, which is where we have the head of the Young Parliamentarians Forum for Africa, their age limit is 45. But we are hoping that we might be able to adjust the age to suit the 35%, which is the 77, which I'm also part of. To be honest with you, it is not easy in our kind of world, especially in Ghana Parliament, to be a young person.
Do you feel intimidated sometimes?
Not feeling intimidated per se, but you just have to put yourself in. You shouldn't see yourself out of the group. If you see yourself out of the group, definitely you feel intimidated. Even getting up to talk, making statements, contributing to debate on the floor, once you feel that you are not part of the group, definitely you feel intimidated by the older generation. So it's all about being part of the group. And then just as the 77% who are here were also saying, you have to make sure you see the value you have within you and then try and then push a particular agenda. In Parliament, we have several people. Some of them are economic experts. Me, I'm not an economic expert, so I will not get up talking about economic issue and embarrass myself. So within you, even in Parliament, within you, you should see what you are best in. if you are a youth advocate, you should be pushing for youth agenda. Any issue that has to do with the youth, you should try and then see yourself in. Some people are for gender, that is women issue. Mostly you see most women getting up, but we have some men who equally, and I know Honorable is one of them, they push a lot of gender issues. So even in Parliament, you still need to see your value to be able to shine. If not, you'll just be there and then nobody will hear of you.
That's wonderful. Now, I want to also bring in Mr. Ras Mubarak, just before I go back and take my seat. Mr. Mubarak is also a member of Parliament. Now, he belongs to the largest opposition party in the country at the moment, the NDC. Now, just before the election, they were in power. Mr. Mubarak had some responsibilities at the Youth Employment Authority at the time. But Mr. Mubarak, I want to challenge what our youngest MP has suggested. Parliament is a house of rules, regulations, and traditions. How easy is it for young firebrands like those we've been hearing to come and upset the apple cart? We've seen the number of times Al-Hassan Suhini has been shot down by the older, more experienced MPs on committee sittings.
Well, it's a very exciting place. Fortunately for us in our country, we have a history of young people being at the forefront. So this is not the first time that young people are taking leadership roles. If you look at our forebears, persons who championed our independence in the 50s, they were persons in the 20s and 30s and early 40s. Go through the 70s, during the revolution, President Rawlings was in his late 20s. There are several ministers who served under him who were younger. Under the Bouzia regime in the 60s, particularly 69, you've had persons like President Kufuor, who was 29 rather, when he became a deputy foreign minister. So Ghana has had that history of young people.
Let's zero in on Parliament. Let's zero in on the experience
at the forefront of championing the cause of our country. And it shouldn't be intimidating. I mean, there are a lot of young people in our Parliament who are doing very, very well, who have expertise in diverse areas. And they should serve as leading light. They should serve as examples to persons who feel that to become an MP or to become a politician, you need a bagload of money to be able to do that. You don't necessarily have to do that. Currently, we are lucky to be in a very digital age where you can harness that opportunity to rally support behind any cause that you want to champion. And if you look at the last parliament, there were a lot of young people who made it into the House. And fortunately for us, leadership of the House has the attitude of encouraging young persons to take up various roles. So in many of the
Suhini example, do you feel that the way he perhaps has come up against resistance might deter other young MPs from speaking up?
Not quite. I mean, I don't remember exactly what might have happened in his particular case, but Parliament obviously is a house of rules, set and steeped in its own self. And for one to be able to get up and make a contribution, one, you would have to attract the attention of leadership. Perhaps there might have been some agreement that on this particular issue, we would have 2 or 3 or 4 speakers.
So basically, he becomes a victim of tradition.
No, but it does. I don't think that it happens only to young members of parliament. I mean, there have been moments when elderly members of parliament have also risen up, but may have been shut down either by leadership.
I want to thank you. I have a voice in my ear telling me to go back to our audience, but let's thank our 2 members of parliament for their contribution.
Is not just a problem for the youth in Ghana, but we have governments that are doing very well. We have Rwanda, which is doing great, along with the World Bank. They have a project called Youth Connect, which is helping young people find jobs and employment. We also have Kenya. We have the Youth Start Fund where young people can borrow money and do business. But at the same time, we have African governments that have failed young people completely. There are actually old men in power who do not care about the young people. And that is where we want to go now, because politics have failed the young people in doing business and in many other factors. And we will talk to an economist analyst this time. And I will come to you, Patrick Stevenson, because you are concerned with matters of governance. What is wrong with African policies by the governments? They do not care about the young people. What exactly is the problem?
Thank you very much for that question, because I was going to address a bit of that anyway. So you heard all the entrepreneurs. Before I respond specifically to your question, typical of entrepreneurs, they find solutions to problems. And so all the constraints we have discussed, as entrepreneurial as they are finding solutions outside of those sort of constraints. Now, that's very suboptimal, because second-best solutions really don't matter. Think of what they can do if you have the right policy environment that supports their work. And so my word to our politicians here, if you're a politician, if you don't support them, get out of their way. Because if you look across the continent today, you have varied innovation and entrepreneurial hubs. Innovation and entrepreneurial hubs that are creating jobs that is completely on the blind side of policymakers. You don't understand the dynamics of these jobs. You're still thinking bricks and mortar, oil and gas, construction. That's not where the future is. People are thinking artificial intelligence and how they can use that to disrupt the agricultural industry, for example. If you're thinking supply of fertilizer, you are out of the game. So if you can't create the enabling environment that supports them, get out of their way so they can do things that support the development of the African economy. Now, to the more, I should say, difficult question which you have just asked, which is whether the politics is, the politics is failing us. I have two propositions on that. The vote that we have as Africans, we sometimes forget that the vote does two things. Usually we say, let's go and elect one leader. So some of the failed states, for example, that are the states that have failed young people you're talking about, you've seen very old leaders who have been in office some 4 or 5 decades and really have not been in tune with what the needs of the young people are. To all young people, the vote you have does two things. First, the vote endorses the system by which you are governed. So if you wake up one day and 2 or 3 successive elections, you have seen an increase in the number of people that turn up at the vote. What it means is that young people, you are endorsing the systems by which you are governed. That means that if the systems for policy formulation are not inclusive, you are endorsing it. So I have heard the Honorable Member of Parliament who says, well, find what you need within you as a person, young person, and use that to contribute to the conversations on the floor. My proposition is, if you don't speak up, the speaker needs to recognize that we're having a conversation about youth policy and call you, rather than calling 60, 70-year-old people on the floor of Parliament. It may be contrary to what the rules of engagement are. Maybe it means we have to go and redesign the rules of engagement to suggest that when we are having some kinds of conversation and policy, we have to hear you, because you are the direct beneficiary of what that policy proposition is going to be. And so to the broader difficulty, when you go to the polls, you go and endorse the system. That is first of all. And then secondly, you determine who runs the system. And so if we say the politics has failed us, we, the young people, I don't think we have come to the realization that when we go to the polls at every election cycle, we're actually endorsing the systems that govern us. What it means is that start thinking creatively. Start thinking creatively. Am I comfortable with the policy formulation process? If I'm an entrepreneur below 35, am I comfortable? The vote is not just to pick who runs the system. It endorses the system. That would be my simple answer to that particular question.
Right. I want to hear from Ivy and also from Dorinda on this issue of politics and whether the 77 are having their voices, suppressed. Historically, young people are not that excited about queuing in the sun to vote. Yes. So really, can they blame someone else when policies are made on their behalf that don't reflect their own desires?
Yeah, I think we can't blame someone else, because I've been a victim of it. I used not to vote. A couple of years back until 2 terms back, I did. But we always feel that whatever decisions they make do not affect us directly. but unfortunately, it actually affects us directly. So we need to actually decide, think about it, and choose whoever has policies or plans or objectives that would favor us, the 77%, because back, I thought I didn't care. Like, honestly, that was me a few years ago. Even though I registered my company in 2008, but I just didn't feel that any policy the government does has anything to do with me, a business person, a private sector person. Until I started switching from clothing to coffee and reading more about coffee and realizing that it's going to be an international thing. It's something I want to do it and I'm passionate about, and I need the government to have policies that would favor me, especially the agri sector. So then I got involved into a little bit of politics and understanding how the dynamics works and why I should contribute and make impact on whoever is going to, voice out my decisions or my plans in Parliament for decision making and policies that will favor me in my business, in my sector especially. But also, like I said, there's something I want to make sure we all get it right here. In order to to be an entrepreneur, you need to have passion for what you are doing. The way I defend Cafe Magnifico is not the way I defend my clothing business. Till today, I have credit with people, but I don't ask for my money because it's a total waste of time. I would prefer to sit with her and convince her to be a coffee drinker and buy a pack of Cafe Magnifico for me than to go into Makola now and be chasing my monies. So one, you get to identify what it's your passion. What do you want to do first? When you have the passion, you would find the drive to wake up every morning and get out of the house to make sure that dream comes to a reality. Whether it's a 1 city you have or a 5,000 Ghana cities, like some of you were complaining since you didn't understand my story from 2008. But then, whatever it is that you want to do as an entrepreneur, first you need passion for it.
Right.
That would drive you.
That's a great injection of passion there. Thank you for that. But let's go back to the politics issue. And I want to hear Dorinda for a moment just before we come back to this side of the room. And Dorinda, look, our law says that you have to be 40 before you can run for president. Do you think young people would perhaps be more interested in politics if they saw more of people like them participating in it?
Definitely, definitely. I really admire you. Congratulations again.